Start chesavachcha? Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to know about the basal ganglia and limbic lobe. Previous class is diencephalon. Previous class is diencephalon. Now the present class is basal ganglia and limbic lobe. So diencephalon, previous class, diencephalon is present between the cerebrum and the brainstem. It is present between the cerebrum and the brainstem, diencephalon. It is present, the cavity of the diencephalon is the third ventricle. The cavity of the diencephalon is third ventricle. It is divided by hypothalamic sulcus into the above part occupied by the thalamus and below part is hypothalamus. So you have to recollect the previous class teachings and the diagrams into your memory, because this basal ganglia and limbic lobe is also nothing but a mass of gray matter associated with diencephalon. For example, amygdaloid body and limbic lobe and everything that is nothing but basal ganglia, part and parcel of basal ganglia is associated with the diencephalon. It is nothing but a mass of gray matter nuclei around the base of the brain, around the cerebrum, and above the brainstem, around the base of the brain and above the brainstem, a masses of gray matter that comprise the basal ganglia and limbic lobe. Here you have to recollect our past class memory, diencephalon. What are the nuclei present below the hypothalamic sulcus? So what is thalamus? What is thalamus that is present above the hypothalamic sulcus, and below the hypothalamic sulcus, what nuclei are present? So you have to recollect them. Mammillary body and everything that is present below the hypothalamus, they all comprise the basal ganglia and limbic lobe. So the basal ganglia and limbic lobe, you must know the diencephalon very well, because these are also the constituents of the basal ganglia and limbic lobe are also associated with the diencephalon. At the end of this chapter, after hearing my lecture, you must know, able to describe the anatomic and functional components of basal nuclei and their function. Anatomical components and functional components of basal nuclei and their functions. So, what are the anatomical things present in the basal ganglia? So, this is nothing but previously it is called as a nuclei. Previously it is called as ganglia, but now it is called as nuclei. Nuclei is nothing but a collection of neurons in the central nervous system. Ganglia are outside, but appropriate term is basal nuclei, but it has become a habitat to call them as basal ganglia. So we are calling it the basal ganglia. After end of this chapter, you should be able to describe the anatomic and functional components of basal nuclei and their function. Describe the connections and functions of corpus striatum. So if you say it is connections, it may be afferent, it may be efferent. In nervous system, connections means it may be afferent or it may be efferent, towards the center or from the center to the periphery. They may be sensory or they may be motor. Now, give the anatomical basis of diseases associated with these basal ganglia and limbic system. Parkinsonism, chorea, ethitosis, and Wellismus. So, which part of the basal ganglia is involved causing the diseases, Parkinsonism, chorea, ethitosis, and Wellismus, and what are the signs and symptoms produced in the patient? So, what is the treatment? You must know. So, you must know the anatomical basis of Parkinsonism, chorea, ethitosis, and Wellismus. So, after studying this chapter, you should be able to describe the anatomical and functional components of basal nuclei and their functions. You must be able to describe the connections, that means afferent connections or efferent connections or functions of corpus striatum. So, give the anatomical basis of Parkinsonism, chorea, ethitosis, and Wellismus. What are the diseases associated with lesions involving the basal ganglia? So, which part of the basal ganglia is involved? So, how the Parkinsonism is produced, how the chorea is produced, what is ethitosis, what is Wellismus. You must be able to know all these things after end of this chapter. Now, basal ganglia are large masses of gray matter situated in the basal part of white core of each cerebral hemisphere lateral to the thalamus. Diencephalon contains the third ventricle. Third ventricle is connected to the lateral ventricles present in both hemispheres. So, lateral ventricles are connected to each other by interventricular phenomena. They are connected to the third ventricle. From the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle, like that connection is there. So, basal ganglia are large masses of gray matter situated in the basal part of white core of each cerebral hemisphere lateral to thalamus. Lateral to thalamus. Now, I will show the diagram. This is a large mass of gray matter. This is a large mass of gray matter. So, this is a large mass of gray matter. Now, this is a large mass of gray matter. So, what is the difference between this diagram and this diagram? So, these are the fibers. These are the fibers of corona radiata or fibers of internal capsule. They diverge to form the corona radiata. So, this is the caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. This is the crus cerebri that is connecting the cerebral cortex with the midbrain. That is crus cerebri connecting the cerebral cortex above with the midbrain. So the fibers, so going, these are radiating fibers. That's why it is called as corona radiata. So this is nothing but internal capsule. Now this mass is lentiform nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus. Now this white color, this one is thalamus. So in this diagram, PSC when it is a thalamus. Now this lentiform nucleus and caudate nucleus forms the corpus striatum and this thalamus. So this is on the lateral aspect is thalamus. So this is present on the this aspect. So this is the lentiform nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus. This constitutes the corpus striatum. This corpus striatum is nothing but a large mass of gray matter. This is amygdaloid body. This is tail is amygdaloid. This is the tail part. It contains at its terminal end amygdaloid body. This one is the thalamus. Now I will tell you what is. Anatomically, the term basal ganglia or nuclei include corpus striatum, caudate nucleus and putamen, claustrum, amygdaloid body. Functionally, the term basal ganglia also include substantia nigra and subthalamus. Substantia nigra, that is present in the midbrain. Substantia nigra is present in the midbrain. So, the term basal ganglia include corpus striatum, contains caudate nucleus and putamen, claustrum, amygdaloid body. Functionally, the term basal ganglia also include substantia nigra, that is present in the midbrain, and subthalamus, that is below the thalamus. Already I told you, the part immediately below the thalamus is called subthalamus. Hypo means all the parts below the hypothalamic sulcus is called hypothalamus, or contents of the hypothalamus sulcus. So all the parts. So the hypothalamic sulcus divides the third ventricle into above the hypothalamus sulcus and below the hypothalamic sulcus. So corpus striatum, caudate nucleus and putamen, claustrum, amygdaloid body, and also here is a term I use also. It includes substantia nigra and subthalamus. Substantia nigra is present in the midbrain. Subthalamus is present below the thalamus. Basal ganglia are the large mass of gray matter situated in the basal part of white core of each cerebral hemisphere lateral to the thalamus. Each core of cerebral hemisphere lateral to the thalamus. Cerebral cortex contains outer part cortex, inner part white matter. So outer part is cortex is called cortical matter, and below that is white matter is present. So basal ganglia are large mass of gray matter situated in the basal part of white core of each cerebral hemisphere lateral to the thalamus. Lateral to the thalamus. You see, this is the diagram. This is the thalamus. This is present lateral to the thalamus. Lentiform nucleus and caudate nucleus. These two constitute the corpus striatum. Caudate nucleus has got head. This is called body, and this is called the tail end. At the end of the tail, amygdaloid body is there. This is the lentiform nucleus. So this entire one is corpus striatum. So if you say basal ganglion, corpus striatum is the most important one, and major part of basal ganglia constitutes the corpus striatum. That's why he has given an individual diagram of the corpus striatum in the textbooks. Corpus striatum almost completely divided into caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus by a band of nerve fibers, internal capsule. Almost completely divided into caudate nucleus and the lentiform nucleus by a band of nerve fibers, internal capsule. Caudate nucleus is a large comma-shaped mass of gray matter, surrounds the thalamus, and is itself surrounded by lateral ventricle. It contains head, body, and tail. Now I will show you the caudate nucleus. This is the lentiform nucleus, an elongated oval one. This is the caudate nucleus. This part is the thalamus. How the caudate nucleus is like a comma shape, and itself rounded over the lentiform nucleus and also over the thalamus. You see section of the caudate nucleus. This is the head of the caudate nucleus. This is the lentiform nucleus, putamen and globus pallidus. So this is the internal capsule dividing the head of the caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Head of the caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. So in between these two, internal capsule is there. Internal capsule is nothing but a projection of fibers. It is divided anterior limb, posterior limb, and a curved one is genome. So this is the thalamus. So this corpus striatum is present lateral to the thalamus. This is the thalamus. So this is present lateral to the thalamus. So this one is caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus consists of head and putamen and globus pallidus. This is body, and this is divided into two by lateral medullary velum and medial medullary velum into globus pallidus and putamen. So this is the lateral medullary velum divides this one into globus pallidus and putamen. So this is medial medullary lamina. This divides this one into two lamina. One is this is lateral part and this is the medial part. Now this is the internal capsule. It is convex. So in the concavity of the internal capsule, these structures are accommodated. So the convexity of the or bend of the genu is towards the superior border and lateral part of the thalamus. Because this is the thalamus, this is the narrow tapering part of the thalamus. So it is present here. This is head of the nucleus. So head of the nucleus is separated from this one by means of fibers, that is internal capsule. This is head of the nucleus is separated from the lentiform nucleus by means of fibers called anterior limb of internal capsule, genu, and posterior limb of internal capsule. Now this one is called claustrum. This one is claustrum. A saucer-shaped mass present is called claustrum. In between the claustrum and the putamen, there is external capsule. So this is diagram is nothing but corpus striatum. What is corpus striatum? Putamen, globus pallidus or lentiform nucleus, head of the caudate nucleus. So corpus striatum, this is the thalamus and also the internal capsule. So this diagram is seen in horizontal section of the cerebral hemisphere. If you cut section of the cerebral hemisphere horizontally, you go to the base of the cerebral hemisphere. Outer part is cortex and below part is white matter. You see at the base of the white matter of the cerebral hemisphere, you will find this part in horizontal section only. In horizontal section of the cerebral hemisphere, you will find corpus striatum, thalamus, corpus. This one is entire one is corpus striatum, thalamus, and internal capsule. This is the thalamus. This is the internal capsule. Head of the caudate nucleus, putamen, globus pallidus. So lentiform nucleus is made up of putamen and globus pallidus, and caudate nucleus. So these two forms the corpus striatum, head of the nucleus. So this one constitutes the, so this one plus this one constitutes the corpus striatum. So this is head of the caudate nucleus. This is lentiform nucleus is made up of putamen and globus pallidus. So this is the corpus striatum in how it is seen in horizontal section. Once again, I am seeing you. This is lentiform nucleus. This is lentiform nucleus. This is caudate nucleus. Two constitutes the this one and this one constitutes the corpus striatum. So this is the lentiform nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus. This consists of the corpus striatum. Now this is the corpus corpus nucleus, caudate nucleus. This is head, this is body, this is tail. So if you do a section like this, you do a section like this, that goes through section through the horizontal section of the cerebral hemisphere, you will find like this. You will find like this. You will find like this. So you will find like this. This is the diagram. This is lentiform nucleus. This is caudate nucleus. Now these are variations of internal capsule. They are coming from the crus cerebri connected to the cerebral cortex in the midbrain. They are going through these. So going into the cerebral cortex. So this is all nothing but cerebral cortex. This entire one is present in the lateral ventricle, because here you should not confuse. How? So this entire one is present within the this outer one is nothing but lateral ventricle. This entire one, how I am showing the marker, that is nothing but lateral ventricle. Lateral ventricle occupies the cerebral hemisphere. Cavity of the cerebral hemisphere is the lateral ventricle. It is present on right cerebral hemisphere, right lateral ventricle. If it is present on left side, left cerebral hemisphere. So this one is present in right cerebral hemisphere cavity, that is lateral ventricle, surrounded by the. So this entire mass is surrounded by the cavity of the lateral ventricle, right side and left side. So it is present on both sides. Now, lentiform nucleus is a large biconvex shaped mass of gray matter beneath the insula, forming the lateral boundary of internal capsule. Lentiform nucleus is a large mass of gray matter. Biconvex shaped mass of gray matter beneath the insula, forming lateral boundary of internal capsule. Surfaces: lateral surface, medial surface, inferior surface. Parts: vertical plate of white matter, external or lateral medullary lamina, divides the lentiform nucleus into two parts, putamen and globus pallidus. What I have written in this theory is corresponding with the diagram. Caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus, divided by lateral medullary velum and medial medullary lamina into, this is putamen and globus pallidus. These two constitute this one, lentiform nucleus. So this is the internal capsule, this is the thalamus. How you show in this section. Again, here you have to go through this theory. Then only you can understand. Vertical plate of white matter, external or lateral medullary lamina, divide the lentiform nucleus into two parts, putamen and globus. External or lateral medullary lamina divides into putamen and globus. Here in this diagram, it divides. So this is the lateral medullary lamina, divides into putamen and globus pallidus. This is the lentiform nucleus. So this diagram in one section appears like that. That is section. This is a transverse section. This is a transverse section of the corpus striatum associated with thalamus and others. This is the transverse section. This appears in sagittal section, longitudinal section of the cerebral hemisphere. Linear from front to back. If you cut in this section, it appears like this. If you cut in a transverse section, it appears like that. You should not confuse it. It's a little bit of confusion, but you must be able to understand it if you properly follow the lecture, my dear student. Connections of corpus striatum, caudate nucleus and putamen, is the receptive part. Globus pallidus is the afferent or outflow part. So connections of corpus striatum. Already I told you, connections in central nervous system, they are afferent and they are afferent. Afferent means going towards the center, they are receptive. So afferent means outflow part. So corpus striatum is divided into caudate nucleus and putamen, globus pallidus. So caudate nucleus and putamen both are receptive part. Globus pallidus is the afferent or outflow part. Now putamen, globus pallidus, caudate nucleus. So caudate nucleus and putamen are the receptive part. Globus pallidus, how he has given. Caudate nucleus and putamen is the receptor part, globus pallidus is the afferent part. So you see it, you study this one, you read again this one, and you see the diagram, which part is receptor part and which part is outflow part. So which part is receptor part, which part is outflow part in this diagram. So you see in this diagram also which part is receptor part, which part is outflow part. So that is the understanding of corpus striatum. Relations of caudate nucleus with cavity of the lateral ventricle. I already told you the entire caudate nucleus is surrounded by the lateral ventricle, cavity of the lateral ventricle. So this is the shape of this is the cavity of the lateral ventricle. This is the posterior horn of the cavity of the lateral ventricle. Now this is the caudate nucleus. This is the head part of the caudate nucleus. This is the body part of the caudate nucleus. This is the tail part of the caudate nucleus. So this is the thalamus part, and this is the amygdaloid body. So the caudate nucleus is connected by means of tail with the amygdaloid body. This is one is a stria terminalis. Have got connection with these three: anterior hypothalamic nuclei, anterior perforated substance, and septal area. So this amygdaloid body, a part of limbic system, is connected to the caudate tail of the caudate nucleus, and also by means of stria terminalis to the anterior perforated substance. So anterior hypothalamic nuclei and anterior perforated substance in septal area. That is the reason why the basal ganglia and limbic lobe are both together taught collectively. So these two are not separate entities. Limbic system and the basal ganglia, diencephalon, these are all interrelated parts, one and the same, one and the same. So all these constituents are present in the diencephalon. Thalamus is a part of diencephalon. Thalamus is a part of diencephalon. So this one is a part of diencephalon. So the entire thing is present in the cavity of the lateral ventricle. This is present between the cerebrum and the midbrain. Cerebrum and the midbrain. That is superior part of the brainstem. So this is the lateral ventricle. So relationship of caudate nucleus with cavity of the lateral ventricle and thalamus. Note the stria terminalis, main afferent tract of amygdaloid body, projects to the septal area. How it goes? Amygdaloid body by means of stria terminalis is a white band of fibers. How it is connected to the anterior hypothalamic nuclei and septal area, and also to the anterior perforated substance, anterior perforated substance and anterior hypothalamic nuclei. So this limbic system is connected with through this caudate nucleus, the amygdaloid body, and this is connected by means of amygdaloid body is a part of limbic system. So this is connected with the stria terminalis to the anterior hypothalamic nuclei, anterior perforated substance, and septal area. So all the functions are associated with each one, and they are reflected in the same manner, one and the same manner. So that is the basal. Afferent connections received chiefly from cerebral cortex, thalamus, and substantia nigra. Cerebral cortex is the highest center. Thalamus is the great sensory relay station. The substantia nigra is present in the midbrain. Substantia nigra is nothing but a large collection of motor nucleus. Thalamus is nothing but a mass of gray matter. It is a sensory control. It is a sensory gateway. Thalamus is the sensory gateway. Cerebral cortex, highest center. It may be motor. It contains both motor and sensory. So from the cortex to the corpus striatum, corticostriate fiber. From the thalamus to the corpus striatum, striate fibers. From substantia nigra to the corpus striatum, nigrostriate fiber. So the first part is the one from which fibers are coming. The striate, corpus striatum is the second part, that is the last part, where the fibers are coming. So they are coming from the periphery. They are coming from the cortex, corticostriate fibers going to the corpus striatum. So from the thalamus to the corpus striatum, they are called as thalamostriate fibers. From the substantia nigra in the midbrain, so this is called striate fiber. So it receives chiefly afferents from afferent connections are from cerebral cortex, thalamus, and substantia nigra of the midbrain. Afferent connections, most of the output goes to the globus pallidus. Some also goes to the substantia nigra. Most of the fibers goes to the globus pallidus, but some also goes to the substantia nigra. Here again, what is globus pallidus? You have to recollect the memory. Where is globus pallidus? This is globus pallidus. So most of the outflow goes to the globus pallidus, and some also goes to the, so this one are associated with afferent connections. This one most is associated with afferent receiving afferents, and also some from the substantia nigra. Substantia nigra present in the midbrain is about our nucleus. Some also include subthalamus, and red nucleus, also part of limbic system, because the two systems, the basal ganglia and limbic system, are interrelated with each other. That's why I'm telling you in a combined manner. You should not confuse. It's a part and parcel. Now, these are the connections. This is the cerebral cortex. From cerebral cortex, caudate nucleus, vitamin. This is the thalamus. How these connections are there? This is the subthalamic nucleus. This is the red nucleus. This is the reticular formation present in the midbrain. So, reticular formation. So, this is substantia nigra. So, this is substantia nigra present in the midbrain. The red nucleus present in the midbrain. Reticular formation is present in the midbrain. So, this is the subthalamic nucleus. So, some also include this one, and this one in the limbic system and also in the basal ganglia. So, this one is caudate nucleus, vitamin, they constitute the corpus striatum, subthalamic nucleus. So, that is below the thalamus, because this is the thalamus, this is the subthalamic nucleus. Subthalamic nucleus is present below the thalamus, immediately below the thalamus. So, from the thalamus to the globus pallidus, from the subthalamic nucleus to the globus pallidus, certain fibers goes. They are called as subthalamic fasciculus. They are called subthalamic fasciculus. From the thalamus, some fibers goes to the red fibers goes to the globus pallidus, and also by circling around the subthalamus also goes to the globus pallidus. These are called thalamic fasciculus. What are the fasciculi? Fibers arising from the thalamus goes to the globus pallidus. So they are called as thalamic fasciculus. So fibers arising from the subthalamus going to the globus pallidus, they are called subthalamic fasciculus. So this inverted arrow, it shows from where it originates. So this pointed one, bulb-like, pointed one, bulb-like, rounded one, shows where it goes. So this is the name given. So these are the fibers coming from the globus pallidus to the subthalamus. They are called as subthalamic fasciculus. So this is the name given to this. You must know the diagram. From the cerebral cortex, certain fibers are coming and going to the thalamus. They are corticothalamic fibers. From the thalamus, they are going into the red substantia nigra. They are called thalamo-nigral fibers. So whatever the fibers coming from the cortex to the nigra, that is called corticonigral fibers. So whatever the fibers coming from the thalamus, whatever the fibers coming from the cerebral cortex, they are going to the corpus striatum. They are called corticostriate fibers. They are called thalamostriate fibers. Fibers coming from the substantia nigra and going into the thalamus, they are called going into the corpus striatum. They are called nigrostrial fibers. They are called nigrostrial fibers. Here, if you keenly observe this diagram with patience and study the PowerPoint that I am communicating with you, you will know. Outflow tracks from globus pallidus. What is globus pallidus? So here he has shown the section. This is the image. Now, claustrum is a thin saucer-shaped mass of grey matter situated between the putamen and insula. Insula is nothing but a submerged part of temporal lobe. Insula is nothing but a submerged part of temporal lobe. They are frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is present on lateral side. So temporal lobe is present on below, infralaterally. So insula is a dipped part. Insula is a dipped part of temporal lobe. Claustrum is a thin saucer-shaped mass of grey matter situated between the putamen and insula. Its connections and functions are not known. Amygdaloid body is an almond-shaped mass of grey matter in the temporal lobe. It lies deep to the uncus. It lies deep to the uncus. Now claustrum I will show you. This is insula. This is claustrum. Insula is nothing but a dipped part of temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, whatever you are seeing outside, some part is also deep inside. You can call it as an insula. Now this is called claustrum, a saucer-shaped mass present between the putamen and globus pallidus. These two are called lentiform nucleus. Putamen and globus pallidus and putamen are called lentiform nucleus. This is claustrum. This is insula. So claustrum is a saucer-shaped mass present between the insula, that is dipped part of temporal lobe, and the basal ganglia, lentiform nucleus. So this corpus striatum had caudate nucleus, globus pallidus, putamen, these called corpus striatum. Should not confuse regarding the analysis. Once again, I am showing you the analysis. Corpus striatum completely divided into caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Lentiform nucleus is again divided into globus pallidus and putamen. Corpus striatum, caudate nucleus plus putamen. Corpus striatum, amygdaloid body. Claustrum, amygdaloid body. Anatomically, basal ganglia nuclei include corpus striatum, caudate nucleus, caudate nucleus, putamen. Putamen, claustrum, amygdaloid body. This is caudate nucleus, this is lentiform nucleus. Now, putamen and globus pallidus, these two are called lentiform nucleus. This is caudate nucleus. This one forms the corpus striatum. So, again, this same color is divided by medial medullary lamina into lateral one and medial one. This is globus pallidus. Again, this is the division lateral medullary lamina between the putamen and the globus pallidus. This is the division. Why I am showing you this PowerPoint and diagram here again, you should not confuse yourself. You have to go through the PowerPoint. Claustrum is a thin saucer-shaped mass of gray matter situated between the putamen and insula. Its connections and functions are not known. Amygdaloid body is an almond-shaped mass of gray matter in the temporal lobe. It lies deep to the uncus. It is related to substantia nigra. Is a large mass of nucleus. Is a large motor nucleus. Extends throughout the length of the midbrain. It is divided into two parts. Dorsal part, pars compacta, contain medium-sized cells. Ventral part contains clear cells. Substantia nigra. Already I told you in the midbrain class. Subthalamus is a small nucleus in the ventral part of diencephalon. So whatever you are seeing, the basal ganglia is a part of diencephalon. Diencephalon is a collective term given to all these things present at the base of the brain, between the brainstem and the cerebral hemisphere. Whatever the thing is present, that is called as diencephalon. So all these basal ganglia are nothing but part and parcel of the diencephalon. I think that I have given you a clear-cut idea. Diencephalon is nothing but present between the cerebral cortex and the brainstem. Basal ganglia are nothing but part and parcel of the diencephalon. If you know it in this manner, you can have an easy understanding analysis. Functions of basal nuclei. Already I told you in the first part, the ganglia is outside the central nervous system, but it has become a practice in calling the basal nuclei. So basal nuclei is the correct term. Planning and programming of voluntary movements. Determine how rapidly a movement is to be performed. So it is decided by the brain how rapidly a voluntary movement has to be done. How large the movement must be. How much extent the movement has to be given. Decrease the muscle tone and inhibit unwanted muscular activity. If unwanted muscular activity, overactivity of muscles is there, it will be prevented by decreasing the muscle tone. These are all the functions done by the basal nuclei. Functions of corpus striatum. Essential for muscle tone, quality of movement, posture and locomotion. Controls automatic associated movements like swinging of arms during walking. It helps in smoothing the voluntary motor activity of the body. These are all the functions of the corpus striatum. These are all functions of basal nuclei. So, these are all the functions of corpus striatum. All the functions of corpus striatum. Corpus striatum is a part of basal nuclei or basal ganglia. Is a part of basal ganglia. So the entire one is diencephalon. So once again I am repeating the diencephalon. It is like that only. So previous class I have told you the diencephalon. Now also I am repeating the part and parcel of the diencephalon. This is basal ganglia. That is the next class. That is the continuous class of diencephalon. Why? That order is given by the Medical Council of India. Now, disorders of basal ganglia. Deletions of basal ganglia result in various forms of unwanted involuntary movements and disturbance in muscle tone. Because voluntary movements are controlled by the basal ganglia. They can, if voluntary movements are more, they will decrease the muscle tone. That's why unwanted voluntary movements are decreased. So unwanted involuntary movements are also decreased. So disturbance in muscle tone. These disorders include Parkinsonism, chorea, and erythrosis. So lesions of basal ganglia result in various forms of unwanted involuntary movements and disturbance in muscle tone. These disorders include Parkinsonism, chorea, and erythrosis. Parkinsonism, chorea, and erythrosis. Now I will tell you what is Parkinsonism. In Parkinson, substantia nigra present in the midbrain contains a specialized cell, melanin cells. Melanin. They are predominantly of melanin. They synthesize dopamine. From nigra, substantia nigra present in the midbrain, some fibers arise and goes to the corpus striatum. So this one, which is secreted in the substantia nigra, motor cells present in the substantia nigra, it goes through these tracts and reaches the corpus striatum. If the substantia nigra, if basal ganglion is damaged, so this flow is obstructed and decrease of the methyl dopa will occur. So dopamine secretion is decreased, so that it results in accumulation. So L-dopa. So if the secretion is decreased, we have to give it by means of supplementation, by means of drugs. So Parkinsonism occurs. Chorea and erythrosis. Chorea is also one type of jerks occurs, but it differs from Parkinsonism. So this is Sydenham's chorea. Parkinsonism is another type of disorder that is associated with L-dopa. Characteristic features of Parkinsonism. Resting tremors. We will get more tremors even on resting stage also. Usually in resting stage we won't get tremors. Lead pipe or cogwheel rigidity. Mask-like face or loss of facial expression. Because a Parkinsonism face, there is no facial expression because the motor activities, functions of the motor activities of the muscles present in the face is paralyzed. So the face is expressionless face. Expressionless face. There is no feelings in his face. So stiff stuffing gait. So stiff stuffing gait. Gait means a way in which a person stands. He stands stiffly. So stooped posture. He bends forward. Stooped posture. Bradykinesia. Slow movements. Treatment L-dopa. Because L-dopa secretion is decreased, so dopamine is replaced by means of L-dopa through the oral route. So these are the characteristic features of Parkinsonism. Resting tremors, lead pipe or cogwheel rigidity, mask-like face or loss of facial expression, stiff stuffing gait, stooped posture, bradykinesia. Treatment is L-dopa. The beautiful example of Parkinson disease, Adolf Hitler, he suffered with Parkinsonism. So mask-like face, Parkinsonism gait, slowed movement, asymmetric resting tremors, how the finger, hand is kept like this. Postural instability, cannot sit. Freezing, rigidity, reduced arm swing. Because when you are walking, your arm swings by the side. By the side, it goes front and back. So it swings to keep the balance. So reduced arm swing. So postural balance is lost. So postural instability occurs. This is the characteristic appearance of a Parkinsonism person. Expression like nothing expression in the face and a characteristic stooping posture forward. Movement is slow. So he cannot swing his arm quickly by the side. When you are walking fast, your arm moves by the side very fast. So he is very rigid. So he is in a freezing state. So because his arm does not swing while he is walking, postural instability occurs. Shuffling gaits. He suddenly puts foot forward in a shuffling manner, shuffling steps. This is the characteristic feature of a Parkinsonism individual. Mask-like face, asymmetric resting intervals, postural instability, shuffling step, freezing, rigidity, reduced arm swinging, slow movement, and this is the characteristic gait of that is Parkinsonian gait. It results due to involvement of reduced secretion of dopamine in the substantia nigra, corpus striatum. That has to reach the corpus striatum for its function. So there is no supply of L-DOPA that is essential for function of corpus striatum. So all these activities result loss of function of corpus striatum occurs because L-DOPA, which is essential, is not secreted properly. That is the reason. So a destruction of basal ganglia also associated with Parkinsonism. Substantia nigra is also included in the part of basal ganglia. Substantia nigra present in the red nuclei, present in the midbrain, is also included in the basal ganglia. So that lesion is also called as lesion of the basal ganglia. So even though it is present in the midbrain, substantia nigra is a motor part. It is also included in the basal ganglia. It is also included in the basal ganglia. Subthalamus is also included in the basal ganglia. Amygdaloid body is also involved in the basal ganglia. Chorea, the jerky, irregular, purposeless, involuntary movements. Ketosis, slow, sinus, breathing movements. Balismus, due to vascular lesion of subthalamic nucleus, balismus occurs. So, how the Parkinsonism characteristic features? How the chorea characteristic features? Quick, jerky, irregular, purposeless, involuntary movements. Ketosis, slow, sinus, breathing movements. Balismus, it is associated due to vascular lesion of subthalamic nucleus. Limbic lobe, it is a C-shaped region that crosses brain hemispheres within the cortex. So limbic lobe is not limited to one lobe. It is limited to portions of temporal, parietal, frontal lobes, no occipital lobe. It includes portions of the temporal, parietal, frontal lobes, not associated with occipital lobe. All mammals have limbic lobe. Limbic lobe includes the amygdala, hippocampus, mammillary body, and cingulate gyrus. What are the things that constitute the limbic lobe? I am telling you. It is nothing but a ring. It is nothing but a ring present at the base of the brain. Limbic lobe is nothing but a ring present at the base of the brain. It extends into the temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and frontal lobe. All mammals have a limbic lobe. All mammals have a limbic lobe. It is associated with olfaction in primitive mammalian organisms. But in human system, but in adult mammals who is humans, who is very well developed, it is dominated by the basal ganglia and also again dominated by the highest central cerebral cortex. So limbic lobe is nothing but a C-shaped region that crosses the brain hemispheres within the cortex. It includes portions of the temporal, parietal, frontal lobe. All mammals have a limbic lobe. Limbic lobe includes the amygdala, hippocampus, mammillary body, and cingulate gyrus. What the things constitute the limbic lobe? I have mentioned in a simpler form: amygdala, hippocampus, mammillary body, and cingulate gyrus. Now, this is the where you find all these things in an animated picture. Basal ganglia, related structures. Red part is basal ganglia. This is related structures, thalamus, subthalamic nucleus, substantia nigra, ventral tegmental area. So how these are all associated has given a beautiful laminated and illustrated diagram, 3D diagram taken from the textbooks. So it is more useful for you to give a relevant information of where it is present. This is the frontal lobe, this is the parietal lobe, this is the occipital lobe. So this is entire one is covered by the temporal lobe. That part of it is removed. Function. The structures integrating of the limbic system are involved in motivation, emotion, learning, and memory. The structures and interacting are of the limbic system are involved in motivation, emotion, learning, and memory. Limbic system is where the subcortical structures meet the cerebral cortex. Limbic system is where the subcortical structures meet the cerebral cortex. So these are all nothing but diencephalon. They are associated with the basal ganglia, limbic system. So these are all nothing but part and parcel. These are all related structures. That's why this class is continuous to the previous class diencephalon. This class is continuous to the previous class of diencephalon. I already advised you before coming to this class. If you go through the previous class very well, and also the PowerPoint supplied by us, if you go through it, definitely you will better understand this class. I am sure. If you go through the previous class, if you go through the previous PowerPoints, if you go through the previous lectures once again, before coming to this class will be more easy for you to understand it. That's why I'm telling you, the central nervous system is a continuous subject. You should not ignore every class. You should follow each class. You should lead the. You should go through the class before class. So you should go through the before class. So before class is diencephalon. If you go well through the diencephalon, this basal ganglion and limbic system, you can easily understand. So if you miss your previous class, once again I am telling you, after this class is over, you again go through the previous class and again go through this class alternately. Definitely you will get a good idea. Definitely you will get a good idea. Is where the subcortical limbic system is where the subcortical structures meet the cerebral cortex. Limbic system operates by influencing the endocrine system and autonomic nervous system. Limbic system operates by influencing the endocrine system and autonomic nervous system. So there are several important structures are present within the limbic system. They are the amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and cingulate glands. So this one, thalamus, which is a part of diencephalon, hypothalamus, below the hypothalamic sulcus, basal ganglia, that is corpus striatum. So cingulate gyrus, that is a gyrus immediately present above the corpus callosum. So all these include the limbic system. So limbic system, basal ganglia, and entire is present in the diencephalon. These are all related classes. So what are the contents of the limbic system? They are amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and cingulate gyrus. There are several important structures are present within the limbic system. What are present in the limbic system? They are the amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, the cingulate gyrus. What is basal ganglia? They are nothing but caudate nucleus, lentiform nucleus. Lentiform nucleus, vitamin, globus pallidus. Now I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something regarding the amygdaloid body. I want to tell you something regarding the amygdaloid body. So amygdaloid body is a oval mass. It's a oval mass. It has got connection through the stria terminalis to the anterior perforated substance, anterior hypothalamic nuclei, and septal area. So you once again remember caudate nucleus. Head of the caudate nucleus, body of the caudate nucleus, tail of the caudate nucleus. So at the end of the tail of the caudate nucleus is amygdaloid body. At the end of the tail of the caudate nucleus is amygdaloid body. This amygdaloid body is associated with sexual behavior. This amygdaloid body is associated with sexual behavior of an individual. So if you find any sexual perversions that comes after 60, that means before 60 sexual perversions, they are not common. It is a psychological problem. Sexual perversions are psychological problems. So if it comes after 60, definitely there is an involvement of amygdaloid body. It is called 60ization. So the term 60ization is used to name the sexual perversions obtained. Is the name. 60ization is the name given to sexual perversions coming after 60 years is associated with lesions of the amygdaloid body. Is associated with lesions of the amygdaloid body. If any person, if any individual who is associated with sexual perversions more after the age of 60 years, before that also it is pathological, it is not normal, that his amygdaloid body may be involved because it is associated with sexual behavior. In early animals, like dogs and others, olfaction is there, and sexual stimulations also associated with olfactory stimulations is also associated with olfactory stimulations. In advanced mammals, human being is a mammalian, So human being is a advanced mammalian. So this entire thing is taken by the basal ganglia and again by the highest central cerebral cortex and again highest central cerebral cortex. If a part of the path is damaged, for example, if amygdaloid body is damaged, so the cerebral cortex cannot control these actions and sexual behavior because already the intervening part is amygdaloid body is damaged. It cannot repair it. So sexual perversions in an individual after the age of 60 is called a 60ization. It is associated with amygdaloid body disease. It is associated with amygdaloid body disease. So the limbic system is associated with sexual behavior, emotions, and behavioral pattern of an individual by influencing the endocrine system, and by also influencing the voluntary movements and involuntary movements. So the limbic system is also very important. For example, another thing is that you will see schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is nothing but split mind. You are seeing so many of the persons going in the roads, begging or without clothes and without mood. They are all schizophrenic patients. So even in schizophrenia also, the limbic system is damaged. So sexual perversions amygdaloid body, the limbic system is damaged, schizophrenia occurs. So a better development of limbic system is essential for the well-being of an individual. You see a person who is well-balanced, socialized person and a civilized person. So you see a good personal behavior of an individual with a positive attitude and other attitudes. That means his limbic system is working very well because his voluntary motor control activity, involuntary motor control activity, and excessive tremors and sexual behavior and endocrine function and everything is influenced by the limbic system through the reticular formation. So it will influence the reticular formation. Reticular formation is nothing but a certain non-specific areas present in the midbrain. So red nucleus is present in the midbrain. It is also part and parcel of the limbic system. It is also part and parcel of the basal ganglia. So red nucleus is associated with rubrospinal tract, corticorubral fibers. From the cortex fibers comes to the red nucleus, that is corticorubral tract. From the red nucleus goes to the spine, anterior heart cells present in the spinal cord. They are called rubrospinal tract. If red nucleus is damaged, so the tract is damaged. So intervening red nucleus relay station is damaged. So these are all motor activities are also impaired. So all the lesions in the central nervous system are associated with one and another. So a better development of limbic system and a good limbic system is essential to have the mental balance because it influences the endocrine system. So these are all related. So at the end of this session, you must be able to know the Parkinsonism, which part is involved, substantia nigra, what are the signs and symptoms. You know what is ethnosis. So you know what is chorea, you know what is balismus. So you know amygdaloid complex involvement. So you must know each and everything regarding the limbic system. So once again, I am telling you, diencephalon is a previous class. So this is basal ganglia and limbic system. These are all so this is nothing but continues to the diencephalon. Diencephalon is present at the base of the brain between the cerebrum and the brainstem. So third ventricle is the cavity of the diencephalon. Third ventricle is the cavity of the diencephalon. Now, in the diencephalon, hypothalamic sulcus is there. It divides into above the hypothalamic sulcus, below the hypothalamic sulcus. Below the hypothalamic sulcus, hypothalamus is there. Immediately below the hypothalamic sulcus, subthalamus is there. So above the hypothalamic sulcus, thalamus is there. Thalamus is also part and parcel of the basal ganglia. So hypothalamic nuclei, anterior perforated substance, mammillary body, amygdaloid body, hippocampus, cingulate gyrus, everything is related to the limbic system. That is also part and parcel associated with the diencephalon. So these are all not separate chapters. Diencephalon and basal ganglia and limbic system, these are all interrelated with each other. So if you after hearing this chapter, after seeing this PowerPoint, after repeatedly hearing this lecture, you must also go through the previous lecture, diencephalon, and again basal ganglia and limbic system, again through the peptide aspects. Then you will get a good memory. Once again, I will insist, my dear students, that anatomy is not a single session class. So you have to read it repeatedly, you have to learn it, you have to think it. So your industry, your paying of attention is more important than everything in the medical college. So your payment of attention, you have to pay your attention towards the class. You must pay your interest towards the textbook. Then only you will get a good knowledge. Whatever we will teach us, we are trying our best. So if there is any errors, we are also human beings. We will try our best to rectify, because you are all nothing but my kids. I have to see the welfare of your through the teaching a good knowledge of subject. So, my dear students, this is nothing but a small chapter. This is not a deviated chapter from the diencephalon. It is one and nothing but continues to the diencephalon. You again go through the subject, then you will get the entire picture of the subject. My dear students, once again, I will request all you to concentrate and wish you best of luck in the subject. I hope that my students will all go through the examination by getting a good subject. Wish you best of luck. Thank you very much for patient hearing of this chapter. I am very congratulate to all of you to get success through the examination, especially during this difficult period, Corona period. You are far distant for me, so you are very far distant for me. So I wish to see you personally as you come to the college. Thank you very much for patient learning. Okay, wish you best of luck, my dear students. I love all of my students equally. Thank you very much.